Velkommen alle sammen. This is the ultimate Viking travel video, the #1 region in the world with the most Viking attractions. Not the #1 Viking city in the world, because if you remember, that would be Schleswig, like I did a video on a few months ago. No, we are talking about counties or regions as a whole. And today, by far, the #1 for Viking attractions would be Vestfold, Norway. Okay, I'm a little biased because this place is home for me. Feel free to debate if you think there's anywhere else that compete, but I can promise 100% there is no other region in the world where you will find more Viking Age attractions and more significant ones than you will see here. And by the way, you can see it all in one day, so that's exactly where we are taking you on a tour of in this video. And stick around to the end of the video to hear about our newest project, revolutionizing travel. Alright, so we are actually here for a very special event. There's a group of us. We're saving that to the end of the video. I have to try and wake everybody up. We had a bit of a late one last night. But we are still going to be able to get everything done today, so let's go and try. Wake up, wake up. You're sleeping the whole day. It's festival time almost. So before we start on our tour, let's talk about logistics for you guys. If you want to stay at a hotel in the area, I recommend Tønsberg. It's the biggest town in the region and easiest to get to both by train and bus from the main airport in Norway, Gardermoen, or even better if you fly into Sandefjord, it's just a 20-minute drive. Our crew, however, stayed in Oseberg, just 10 minutes drive away, maybe the most beautiful town in Norway in my opinion. Either way, it's worth a visit just because of the name. Oseberg literally means just the beach of Asgard, home of the gods from Norse mythology, so that's a worthy note and cool place to visit. Then, off to the road to start on our Viking tour. Just outside of Tønsberg, you will find the #1 most famous ship burial of the Viking Age, Oseberghaugen. First stop, and this is something you guys can't miss. In Vestfold, and even in Norway, this is the most extravagant burial and the most important one. This is where the Oseberg Ship was buried. This is one of the most powerful places in the country and a must visit if you're in Vestfold. So the Oseberg Ship is actually one of the best preserved, and today it is being kept at the Viking Ship Museum in Oslo. The reason this is the most significant find of the Viking Age is this burial, which is fit for a king, was actually 2 women buried in there, believed to be honored völva, witches or seeresses. And the finds from this ship teach us more about the spiritual beliefs and practices of the Viking Age than any other archaeological find from the time. See my full video I did on that right here. Next, we are on the way to another great burial mound, also just outside of Tønsberg, that is. It's a lesser known one, but still super important. And this one, the next stop, a lot more less known, but very, very important. This is Farmannshaugen. This is also a very extravagant burial mound. And this is very important because it's not all about warriors and witches and important people like that. Björn Farman, the guy who is buried in this one, established the town of Tønsberg. And Farman basically means the trading man. So he was best at bringing in wealth, and he brought in tons and tons of wealth to Norway. He was a son of Harald Fairhair, so they also valued with their great burial mounds, leaders in business as well. So very important and a must-see if you are in the area. As you can see, Björn Farman left a long imprint on its history here. Many places in Tønsberg are named after him. Also, if you have time, there is a small museum in the town called the Slottsfjellmuseum, and it has a very cool Viking exhibit amongst a lot more rich Norwegian history. On to the next site, we drive about 20 minutes just outside of the next town over, Sandefjord, where the second best preserved ship of the whole Viking Age was buried. Next stop, Gokstadhaugen.
So this is where one of the best preserved ships of the whole Viking Age were found, and you can actually still see the ship in the Viking Ship Museum in Oslo. And this is where it was buried, and it is said to be the burial of the legendary Olav Geirstadalf who lived here.
Now, buried in this mound is said to be King Olav Geirstad, who, when he died in the early Viking Age, he was buried here and worshipped after his death as an elf. Almost 200 years later, the spirit of this dead Olav came to a man in a dream and instructed him to dig up his sword and ring and give it as a gift to a child that was about to be born. The child about to be born was King Olav Haraldsson, who was said to be the reincarnation of Olav Geirstadalf. Again, see my video on that for the whole story. Next stop, just about another 10-minute drive down the road, is a very secret one that not a lot of people know about, even the locals, but it is one of the most powerful and oldest sites in the area.
Next stop, just the other side of Sandefjord, we have Istrehågan. Now this place is pretty mysterious. We don't know exactly what it was. The only thing we know that this was a very, very old place. Some of the oldest ones go back to the Bronze Age even, and the newer ones to the Iron Age. And it was viewed as a sacred place, we think, for a very long time as well. But other than that, we don't know much, but definitely a must visit.
So, although there were some human remains here buried, it was not primarily a burial site like the other places we have seen today. It seems to be more of a place primarily used for spiritual practice. You will see 3 structures of standing stones, basically in the shapes of ships, similar to the ones you may see in Sweden, although there are some theories as to what Istrehågan was for during pagan times. We are not sure, and it's overall very mysterious. The name, we actually don't even know where it comes from, so without a doubt, this is a very old and very sacred place. Just another 10-minute drive up the beautiful country roads, we come to the location of one of the biggest temples of the early Viking Age.
Next stop on our journey is Tjølling Kirke. Now this is one of the oldest churches around Vestfold for sure, but the real important thing and the reason why we're here is this used to be an ancient pagan temple, a very, very sacred site just up the road from the major trading town of Kaupang, and also the hall, Skiringssal, where many chieftains and kings ruled from. So this is where their sacred place would have been, just a few minutes down the road from the other settlements.
So the reason we think that this site was the location of the grandest pagan temple of the age is because of 3 reasons. In the written sources, a grand temple is mentioned just outside of the major Viking Age town of Kaupang and royal hall of Skiringssal, so the location lines up. Second, the name Tjølling comes from the Old Norse word fjordaling, meaning the heath or the crowd or assembly of people, just like the Old Norse Althing, which usually took place at a sacred site as well. And finally, because this church right here is one of the oldest churches around. And as you all know, the Christian rulers during the Viking Age and after strategized by building their churches smack dab on top of pagan sacred sites, after they had torn down any structure standing there, of course. So the oldest churches in the north of Europe, we can say that pretty much 9 out of 10 times they were probably a pagan sacred site before then, and I promise you can feel that energy here. It is a beautiful, powerful place. Anyway, driving along, we will pass by where the great royal hall of Skiringssal stood during the Viking Age, where many powerful kings and chieftains ruled from.
We're driving through now. It's on the way to Kaupang, but this is where Skiringssal was. It was the grandest royal hall of the area. It was right out here. I would usually stop there, but the farmer gets pissed off. He's seen me a few times now. He gets pissed off. There he is right now. He gets pissed off if we're on his land. But the grandest royal hall where Harald Fairhair grew up and his father ruled from would have been right out this area in there. But there's nothing there now, of course.
And all of this is on the way to Kaupang, just a few minutes down the road, which was the capital city of the early Viking Age.
But probably the main attraction of Vestfold is right here, Kaupang. This was the Viking Age capital city. It was the biggest and earliest city in all of Scandinavia at the time. And this is exactly where it would have been. Problem is there is nothing here now, basically, because in the mid-Viking Age, we don't know exactly what happened, but at some point it was completely abandoned and there is nothing here now except farms. But there is a pretty cool museum and gift shop over there, and we will check that out right now.
Oh, this area would have been the largest city in the early Viking Age with plenty going on. Kaupang is considered to be Norway's first city, even being mentioned by Ottar of Hålogaland when he visited Alfred the Great around the year 890. So there is written sources and also massive archaeological finds to prove that this is the exact area where the Viking capital city of Kaupang stood. Now it's just a beautiful place to visit with not much going on, but if you are here in the summertime, there's a little museum that will be open and a great friendly lady to give you the full tour. You will find some of the artifacts dug up from this area and replicas of weapons, clothes, graves, even a full-size Viking house exactly like it would have been built in the Viking Age. It is a must-see if you are in Vestfold. Next, we are off to the far borders of the county, about a half an hour drive, but on the way first, a couple of noteworthy places that we're not stopping at today, but we absolutely could have if we had an extra half an hour. We have Bøkeskogen, which is like a gathering place for celebration in my hometown of Larvik, but all of you will find some small burial mounds and different natural structures in there dated to the Viking Age and even Stone Age, some parts of Bøkeskogen. And we think it was a sacred space here as well. Another sacred place in the small town on the way to where we're going is a place called Brunlandnes, which also has burial mounds dated to the Viking Age and before, and it was a sacred place as well. You can see my video I did on that. Then, if you are fortunate enough to make it all the way out here, this place is called Mølen. It is my favorite place in the entire world, not only for its beauty, but its power and its history. All along this rocky coast, which is compiled of rolling stones dating back millions of years, you will find over 230 cairns and many burial grounds dating back to the Viking Age and even the Bronze Age almost 3,000 years ago. Even though there is not much to do here, the energy is incredible. The power you get from this place, I would prefer just sitting and hanging out here all day over any museum in the world. It is a must-see. It's worth the drive out there if you can make it. Then, even after all this that we were able to do in a day, we are on the way back to the last location and the real reason our crew has gathered here this weekend. Borre, an incredibly sacred place with 7 massive burial mounds and about 20 smaller ones from all over the Viking Age and before. Each one big and rich enough to be the resting place of a king. The difference between the mounds at Borre and the other ones we saw today are that the ones here are a bit more mysterious. We don't know exactly who was buried in these mounds or why. All we know is that the ones buried here were of utmost importance and the place was regarded as sacred and protected for many hundreds of years to come. They also discovered through ground-penetrating radar right near here that there were 2 great halls that would have been a gathering place for people from all over the region during the Viking Age. And by the way, today, in mid-August, when we are all here, the largest Viking festival in the world is going on right next door, Midgardsblot. All of the top bands, merchants, reenactors, and fans of Viking Age culture, they are here in mid-August. You will also find a small museum and gift shop and a fully reconstructed hall where they also play some epic music. Like I said, you can see all of this in one day. There is no other region in the world with more Viking history and things to do than in Vestfold, and I'm proud to call it my home, and I hope I have inspired all of you to visit. Quick note before you guys finish, I announce our brand new launch today. We've been working on it all year and finally ready to release it. Norse Retreats. We are creating a line of Viking-themed vacation rentals around Scandinavia and other sites in the world. We decorate regular properties and convert it to the Viking stay that you can book straight on Airbnb or Vrbo, designed to immerse yourself in the culture and get the most education and culture in your trip. The first ones will be up and ready to go in the next few months, and we'll be adding more as we go, so stay tuned for that. And if you or anyone you know has a property and is interested in working with us, you can send them our way for more information. What we do in addition to the interior design is our team of experts handles the marketing, analytics, SEO, dynamic pricing, and even management to make that property into the top 1% performing listings in your area. So if you or anyone else you know has a property that sits empty, or if they're already listing it on Airbnb and just want to maximize its performance, you can contact us at norseretreats.com for a free analytics report on your property and location to see if we would be able to help you. And like I said, lots more news coming on this, but that's all for today. Thank you for watching. Welcome to Vestfold whenever you get the chance to make it. Vi ses nästa gång.